start because Rear Admiral White took us at about what I would say the 10,000 foot level. Maybe started at the 30,000 foot, came down to the 20, then the 10. I'm going to start at the 10, and I'm going to go deep. Oh, funny. So I'm going to go right where an educator's heart is and how to make this something workable. As I got introduced before, my name is Linda Kurakawa. I'm Director of Community Education and Workforce Development at MiraCosta College. And I run the Technology Career Institute in Carlsbad, part of MiraCosta College's 4 sites. I opened it last year, about 18 months ago. And we have an engineering technician program that has a blue technology bent. And so before that, I have become quite interested in our oceans. So I'm going to take you on a little journey, and then we're going to talk as a group. We're going to explore some questions. So first, there is the ocean economy, and the ocean economy is made up of what comes to your mind immediately. Ocean economy. What comes to your mind? Yell it out.
Fishing.
Fishing.
Boats.
And boats. Yeah, that's generally what we think about. Fishing and boats. That's the ocean economy, and that's what we've known it for many, many years. So it's sitting out there, this, over 70% of our land, of our planet is ocean, and it's shipping, and yeah, so not a lot happening out there. But the blue economy is a sustainable ocean economy, and it emerges when economic activity is in balance with the long-term capacity of ocean ecosystems to support this activity and remain resilient and healthy. So all that beautiful wording by the economists, the intelligence unit, means working with our ocean in a way that keeps it healthy. That's what that long paragraph means. So, as Rear Admiral White mentioned, that the ocean is becoming and will continue to become an economic force this century because there's accelerated economic activity around the ocean. And he mentioned some of the reasons why. Why are there economic? Go ahead and yell them out. Why are we having more economic development around the oceans? Technology. Well, that doesn't actually, it's something we use on the ocean, but that doesn't actually make us use the ocean more. What's making us be involved with the ocean more?
Population.
Yeah, exactly. And then we use technology for it. What else? Energy. We need more energy, don't we? We can't keep relying on fossil fuels and coal. Pharmaceuticals. We are discovering all kinds of unique things under the ocean. What else? Food. So those are some of the things we think of. So we're having soaring global population, affluence and consumption of all that beautiful shellfish, and the need for new sources of food, energy, and minerals. By 2030, 2 out of every 3 fish on our plates will have been farmed, much of it at sea. Offshore wind capacity is forecast to rise almost tenfold by 2030, and seaborne trade is expected to quadruple by 2050. Our ocean is a highway of transportation. It is a highway of transportation. So what we have on there has to be done in a way that sustains it if we're going to sustain our planet, because 80% of our population lives within 62 miles of the ocean. 80% lives within 62 miles of the ocean. We've got to take care of that because it's going to affect us tremendously. But all this human activity is driving the decline of our ocean. Now, on the flip side of this, it may not make any sense why I'm all of a sudden, talking about ocean, and then, whoop, I switched over here to Generation Z. They are currently in our K through 12 schools. Most of you were K through 12 instructors. And the research is showing that 60% want jobs where they can impact the world. So we've got a perfect Venn diagram. We have young people who want to help and impact the world. And we have a growing ocean economy with a labor force that must also protect the ocean. And what does that put in the middle of that Venn diagram? It not only puts blue economy as a large concept, but blue technology. And so here comes your technology. Jobs around the technology. So let's get down and dirty and talk about technology, because you as educators in your science standards must bring the concept of here's an activity, here's a lesson, and here's the career where that goes to. Am I not correct? You have to relate it to where they're going to be going on their educational journey or pathway. And we know as educators that students don't do well with loads and loads of choices. We have to guide them. You can't just give them an overarching 10,000-foot level understanding that there's an ocean and there's lots of jobs out there, and by the way, you might want to study science. That's not helpful. That's too much for a child, or even a middle school or a young adult. So we have to direct them. So teach your students everything we know about BlueTech, and we'll be great. So the problem, I don't know about you, but everything I know about BlueTech can fit in that thimble. So that might be a problem for some of us. Some of us have vast amounts of knowledge of BlueTech, and maybe that's why you're here today. And then you get to share with the rest of us. But I've had to learn every bit of the way, just in my job and my capacity, rolling out new programs, because that's what I do, is as I roll out a new program, and I'm going to do one next year called Biomedical Equipment Technician. I know nothing about how to operate biomedical equipment except a needle, because I was a phlebotomist. So I have to learn. So we have to learn, and we have to expand, and I so appreciate your time here today, because that's what you're here doing. So we're going to take BlueTech 101 really fast. Maritime technology forms the largest innovative cluster in San Diego, and it has an annual projected growth rate ranging from 6.5 to 20% job rate through 2020. So there is a good chance that if you train a student ready to do a job that has anything to do with blue technology or sustainable ocean technology, then they will get a job. Okay, so that's good news. But let's look at Google, and it's not coming up here very well, but I went into Google, and I asked Google, because it knows everything, right? And I asked Google, tell me about blue technology. And you can't read this right now, but there's 4 companies that do blue technology. So if I went in, I might find 4 things about blue technology, but there's nothing there. I can't go in and just say, as an educator, I want to know everything you know about blue technology, tell me Google. And it's not going to help very much. So I'm going to help. So today is about helping you. So be a sponge, and at least come back to your students with some things. Come back to your families. Come back to your children, your nephews, your niece. Okay, so types of blue technology. As Admiral White and Rear Admiral White said, there's aquaculture and fishing. There's biomedicine. Cables and connectors. Who knew? They go into the ocean. Desalination and water treatment, boats and shipping, ocean energy and minerals, ocean science and observation, ports and marine transportation, telecommunications, large floating platforms, weather and climate science, robotics, and there's more. So let's have a look. I don't think there will be sound, but you'll get to see some very cool stuff here. This is Nautilus, and you can do this in your classroom. And Nautilus is one of several ships that are out. Oh, it is.
Video, you don't push it?
Not
No,
showing.
no.
Showing on my
Are those
laptop.
two words there already on the right now?
Maybe I get how to get it to switch. They're all where they are at any given point. Now, that particular one shows live footage of trips that they've taken before. Right now, they're in port, so they're replaying some of their old footage. They're not out to sea right now. There's the Explorer that also goes out to sea, and they're all set for you. They are there for you.
Do you want me to push it back?
Yes, please.
Awesome.
Have my own aid. Okay, so now we've just seen something on the screen, and there are 25 middle school children across the parking lot today. And they're in a room making little robotic crafts that use solar energy to function. And they're learning about biomimicry and BlueTech. And there will be another group this afternoon that will do the same thing. And they're watching this also today. And they're going to be doing exactly the same experiment you're going to be doing. Not experiment, but exercise that you're going to be doing. And that is
That's the second type of water, right? The one that wants to go to the ocean.
So let's talk about, you just saw something on the screen. What technology did it take to make that happen? So you can see that today. So our children across the way can see that today. What technology? I'd like to hear some answers.
Robot.
Okay, it took a robot.
It took some trained crew members to get the vessel out to the workshop.
Exactly. It took a trained crew to get that ship out into the ocean and position it correctly. Who on that ship?
The civilian mariners, by the way,
Okay, civilian mariners. Who else is on that ship?
scientists.
Scientists. What kind of scientists? Ocean scientists. Who else is on that ship?
Biologist.
Navigator. Biologist. Microbiologist. Who else is on that ship?
A cook.
A cook. A seafaring cook. Chef. Yes.
IT specialist.
An IT specialist, absolutely. A deckhand, a sonar guy or gal. So all these positions on a ship. What did it take to make the robot? Engineers and cables that could do what? And what happens when you're underwater? There's a lot of pressure, so there might be some effect on those cables. There's also something else in the water. A lot of salt. There's a high salinity content. So, and there's things that might come at it and nibble at it. And so there's materials management. And who helps the engineers? Sorry? Manufacturers help they make parts that go on the robot, and technicians, and et cetera, So that's what you have. You have the Nautilus, the Hercules, which is one of their robots, the Argus, a multi-beam sonar, telepresence. You have communication specialists. These are the BlueTech careers we are talking about. These are the ones you don't think about when you think about, if my kid wants to work in the ocean, they're going to become a marine biologist. And that's it. And there's one track for a marine biologist, because you can't become a marine biologist with a high school diploma. You have to go to a four-year university and probably beyond. But look at all the other jobs I just talked about. Some of the jobs that are needed on the Nautilus, the videographer engineer. And it's got a star next to it. Star means, what do you think? Star means they don't need a four-year degree. They could do it with less. And I'm not advocating that we don't encourage children to go to high school, but we already know 30 to 40% and higher are not going to. So why not tell them what's out there and help them and make them feel noble for the service and the jobs that they do for humankind? And so I put stars next to these. There's a mapping specialist, an ROV pilot, somebody who's really good at video games and wants to then go on a ship and do it under the water. Communications, engineers, navigation, deck chief, engineer technicians, data engineer, sonar technician, computer specialist. You can read the rest of it. A dive master. Now let's think about more. Talked about agriculture. Think now, we've just gone through a list of occupations. What do you need for each of these occupations? Desalination, floating port. Who built them? Where did all the pieces come from? Who maintains it? Aquaculture. And who's doing it in a way that keeps our ocean not just healthy, but healthier than it is right now because we've ignored it? What about the future?
Linda, excuse me.
Yes.
I think the bottom line is that we need to develop an interest at a young age into the future occupations that you mentioned.
Correct.
There has to be a stimulation of the environment.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. And when we're working with K through 12, and especially if you're working with K through 6 or 8, how many of you are working with K through 8? Few of you. K through 12, raise your hand. Okay. So at K through, actually all the way through K through 12, because technology changes so quickly, as you keep hearing again and again, you are training them for jobs that don't exist. But these things will exist in a form. They will adapt. These things we're watching, we're looking at the future. So this is a hotel that's being built. And it's got this massive wall of glass. And it takes a lot of, in San Diego, there is a company that makes that glass that can go 300 feet under the ocean. It's a lot of pressure. It can go even more. There's cities being planned. There's a fellow over in the vendor, and he's got a company that started in France, and they're doing hydroponics underwater. Now, it's not what you imagine. They're under bubbles. And the plants themselves generate their own watering system because of the mist and the evaporation that condenses on the bubble. And it's fascinating. Go talk to him at your break. So these are the educational pathways. These are what we're talking about. But now let's dig deeper. Here's the BlueTech pathways. High school, there is a place for somebody who's non-specialized. There is a place for a high school student with some CTE training in high school. There's a place for people who go beyond high school and just get certifications. There's a place for multiple certifications or an AA degree. Bachelor's degree we all know about. And graduate degrees. So here's where it comes. These are the jobs. There are all of these various jobs that can be looked at. And I'm going to make a statement. This is my soapbox. There is no job that is better than another. If you serve your fellow person, your fellow woman, man, humankind, you are doing something wonderful and noble. And it's not for us to tell somebody that one thing is better than another. If they have a passion, it's ours as educators to seek out the passion in the child and then direct them. And one path is as good as another as long as they understand that contributing to humanity and our environment is pretty much the ultimate goal. Okay, I got off my soapbox. So, then of course, once they're in this position, you can tell them that at any point in their life, I have 65-year-old students who get jobs. At any point in their lives, they can continue on and increase their skill levels. And maybe even have their company pay for it. They don't have to pay a cent. Now there's America's promise. Right? Okay, and so what you can do, help to create solutionists. Students who are schooled in finding solutions to problems we face, and especially in regards to the environment, and I would have to say especially in regards to the ocean. Bring in guest speakers to talk about their jobs within the blue economy or BlueTech. Go to events where you can learn about careers, and thank you for coming today. And utilize educational resources regarding blue technology like novelists, like those other types of things that you'll find in the vendor room. So do go visit the vendor room when you're ready. Now it's your turn. I'll answer a few questions, but we are going to address just that. How do we prepare students for existing jobs and those that don't exist in the blue economy? And what types of curriculum promotes innovation and tomorrow's visionaries? Because that's really what we're talking about. Anytime we work with children and help them become solutionists, and that's how we present every problem, every challenge, every educational module in our classrooms. We invite them to be creative, and we invite them to be problem solvers and critical thinkers and think about tomorrow. And then they've got the best toolkit in the whole wide world for jobs that don't yet exist, right? Yes. And that's how I love to think about it. So I'll answer any questions, and then what we will do is we'll get into groups, and you can talk with your fellow educators about these three questions until our next speaker. Yes?
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the presentation. I thought was excellent. But I'm curious of why you left out one of the major BlueTech industries, and that is offshore oil and natural gas.
Again, that's what I didn't do shipping. We mentioned it, but offshore oil and gas is huge, and it is another area of our need for expertise. It is more needed expertise almost than anything because it has such potential for damage, and we don't want to do that as we're extracting oil and gas. So, sorry I left it out. It's so obvious, sometimes you forget the obvious. And
And STEM, especially in STEM jobs.
Yeah.
It's extremely
It's
scientific.
extremely huge. They need underwater divers and welders, and they need technicians and IT specialists for those oil
And biologists.
and biologists. Right, of course. So thank you for mentioning that.
Linda, can you tell us about the blue technician pathway that you have here at Coastal College?
So Miracosta's Blue technician, well, the educational pathway we have is that my department is like extended studies. It's not for credit. And we take 600 hours of education for engineering technician, like you would do for a normal 2-year degree, and we condense it in 4 months. They go every day, all day, 5 days a week, like they're going to a job. And they learn electronics, automation, robotics, 3D, printing, hydraulics, pneumatics, mechanics, and then they are being scooped up at the end of their training in BlueTech companies and in non-BlueTech companies. I'll be quite frank with you there. But where we teach them BlueTech is when they learn something like electronics, they'll learn it, and then we say, okay, well, what happens if you're 300 DPI? And, there's salinity, and what happens to the materials, and what do we do about it? And we bring in guest speakers, and so they learn that. Yeah.
Is this in Carlsbad?
Yes, it's in Carlsbad at our Technology Career Institute. So because we know that so many jobs are available in BlueTech, we want to make sure that when we teach them something, we teach them the basics, and then we add a BlueTech component. What happens when you have, and their final project is to build from scratch including the circuit board and all the parts, an underwater robot. So they build some of the pieces for their underwater robots in 3D printers that they have learned SolidWorks in order to create the designs. And they know very little when they walk in. We only have a 10th grade education requirement, and if they don't, and they're not able to do the 10th grade math or reading, we assign them a tutor at no cost. So we get them in, we get them trained, and we get them employed. And that's kind of our motto. And we do that with all of our Work Skills program at the Technology Career Institute. We have many programs like that. Yeah.
But you said you don't get credits for it.
Right. Not yet.
Sorry? Not yet? Oh,
Not yet.
good, because you give a certificate for it.
Yes, a certificate, and our certificate is becoming known as the standard because we created the curriculum using industry support, and they helped us design the curriculum, so they asked us to do certain aspects of it. Same with our machining program and our welding program. And because I'm not allowed to assign credit because I'm in community education, but the Carlsbad Unified High School District and Trade Tech High are wanting to collaborate with us to have their students attend some of the courses and get high school credit. And then I helped Cal State San Marcos. I'm helping them get their engineering school of engineering off the ground. I wrote a large grant, and they're using it for feasibility study and the beginning work that has to be done in order to launch an engineering program, a school of engineering, and it doesn't exist there currently. And once they get that started, which I think is happening next year, Miracosta and Palomar, their two feeder schools, will start pre-engineering program. My engineering technician program will feed into the pre-engineering, and they will get articulated credit. So that's why it was a long road, but I had a vision for my students to eventually get credit for what they did.
Have you considered getting a technologist degree for this school?
A technologist degree
Yes.
at the Cal State San Marcos. So when they did their feasibility study, they came up with mechanical, electronic, and computer engineering as the three that they're going to start with. But the kind of a mechatronics technologist did come up high, so I think it's in the future. As a technologist, I don't know whether they'll do that.
This is a trend that at least I've seen with the kids that we send to Fordham University. Either they go for a computer science major, electrical, mechanical engineering, but then they find that the first year and a half, 2 years is really tough, really hard. And all the work that we did in promoting and exposing, and it's fun and it's hands-on, and they don't get to that part because they can't have the first 1 year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So those kids, we're creating a gap that can be captured by a technology degree that jumps into.
That's what our program actually does. It is in 4 months. It's like an engineer's playground.
But they don't get a degree.
No, but they will. I mean, not right this minute, but they will within 2 years from now. They will get articulated credit. And what that will do is it gives them all the hands-on skills that they're missing. That makes it easier because it's applied science. It's applied STEM. And so they get the math. All of a sudden they get it where they have it because we've got all of the robots and all of the electronics and all of the automated equipment. And so we're finding that our students that do go from that program even now without credit, if they go into engineering, they're getting it right away. They're doing way better. So that's part of the issue is that there just isn't enough. It's an expensive program to run, and it's hard for the high schools to run a program for that. And so I have to write lots of grants. I do. So what time is it right now?
Quarter to.
So you have 15 minutes, and I'd like to invite you to just grab, if you're just a couple at a table, maybe get with a table that has a few more and make yourselves at least 4 people. And you'll be all mixed up, which is great in terms of education, and talk about those 2 concepts and see what you can come up with. And those are yours to take home. Those are yours to take home. And thank you so much.